welcome back to another episode of Raven's Ramblings. I am your host, Raven, your friendly neighborhood witch and rambler of magic and nonsense. Tonight, I almost said today, and then I realized it's after midnight. So tonight, we're going to talk about two things, and they kind of go hand in hand. The Witchy first aid kit that I talked about at the end of the last episode. And we're going to talk about something called the town witch, which is back in medieval times historically, who would have been classified as a witch in a way. We're going to talk about that first and lead into that witchy first aid kit. Before we do that, how are y'all doing? I never ask how y'all are doing. So, how y'all? How's your mama and them? Good? I hope so. Hope everybody's having a good week. It's May here in the South and it's heating up and, oh, Lord, I just wanted to get cold again. I can't stand the summer and all that sunshine. It's too much for me, but I'm a night shift person, so maybe I'm just more dark oriented. I don't know. Anyway, hope y'all are doing good. Let me know. Drop me a line in the email or comment on one of the Facebook posts or send me a message. Just let me know. I wonder. Back to what I had planned for the episode. The town witch. These people were kind of the unsung heroes, but also misunderstood people in medieval life. The town witches, the cunning folk, wise women, midwives, all of those were kind of wrapped up into one. They were the healers of a village, they were the protectors of a village and the people, and sometimes, well, honestly, sadly, a lot of times, they were also the scapegoats. We're going to kind of review all that and see kind of where we came from. So long before modern medicine, we have ridiculous amounts of modern medicine. So before that, before hospitals, pharmacies, CVS, all those things, there were cunning folk, men and women who were trained usually in a family, and skilled in the art of healing, folk magic, divination, those kinds of things. They were not always called witches, at least not in a negative connotation. Most of them, until something went wrong anyway, most of them were very well respected, and even people had a healthy fear because they did have such a deep knowledge of herbs and charms and those mystical forces in the world, because they could make things happen that the normal common folk just couldn't. They didn't know how to do those things. So they would create protective amulets. They would cast spells. You can't see the quotation marks I'm making, but they would cast spells to bring good fortune or ward off illness, and they were often the first people that those that were desperate and had nowhere else to turn, they would turn to the cunning folk. If someone needed a love charm, this gentleman had his heart set on this one woman and he just could not catch her eye, he could go to the cunning folk of the village and get a spell or a charm or whatever and try to win her that way. Or if people believed in a lot of mystical things, even though they didn't really understand them in medieval times. Some people, if their cattle were weak and dying in the field, they would assume they were cursed, not that there was an illness or something, but that they were cursed. So The village wise person might offer some type of protective amulet or talisman, or whisper a few words into the wind to break that curse and, help the farmers and the cattle people and stuff to do away with the bad luck. My rambling is super strong tonight. My ADHD is running amok, so y'all just bear with me. Hopefully we'll get through this. It was simple things like that though. They weren't always coming for, oh, my leg has fallen off, kind of things, but a lot of simple things. Now, one of probably the most powerful people in a village, medical wise, were the midwives. Okay. Now, you don't hear a lot about the midwives. You just don't. They were kind of the unsung heroes and stuff. But they held a vast knowledge of birth and herbs and that balance between life and death, especially in those times when childbirth was just extremely dangerous for the baby and the mother. That's where the majority of the deaths were, honestly. So midwives were a lifeline. They were that you had to have a midwife. And we still do have midwives today and doulas and things like that, but they are not as commonplace because now we have nurses and doctors and nurse practitioners and stuff. But back then, all you had was the cunning people or the midwife, and that's who you called when a baby was coming. The midwife's role didn't just end with the baby being born, okay? They were often the keepers of the herbal lore. Now, when I say the keepers, all that was mainly transferred verbally because most people couldn't read or write. They pushed those traditions down. That's a terrible way to look at it. They passed those traditions down to the next generation, taught the next ones how to use plants like pennyroyal and mugwort and raspberry leaves and all these different things that work for labor pains to helping with infertility, because infertility, that's something that's always been around, and they had different ways of working with it back then, but you had to have that herbal knowledge to be able to help with those things. Because midwives worked so close with life and death, they were kind of treated with a little bit of awe and honor, and also with a little bit of suspicion, because if a birth went wrong, they were the first one to be blamed. It's something that the midwife did or the wise woman did caused the death of the child or the mother even. And maybe they had handled a black cat and then came to birth the baby, so now they were a witch. And this was extremely common, to put that blame on the midwives of that time. As other religions became more predominant in medieval times, Christianity being the main one, the old ways like herbal remedies, protective charms, folk magic, folk rituals, those things began to be labeled as witchcraft. And it was in that negative connotation. It was in that dangerous sense. So now these people who had delivered babies and helped heal the sick were now accused of consorting with the devil. So fear replaced respect, and at that point is when things like the dark history of the witch trials began, and the main negative connotation of the word witch was born at that point. Before that happened, though, these people were the wise folk. They were the community's doctors, counselors, spiritual guides. They normally lived in like a small cottage, usually at the edge of town, so they would have room for their herb gardens and such, and be able to forage in the forest for whatever they didn't have in their gardens. And they were loved and respected, and then something came about, and then they were not, and they were persecuted. The takeaway from this, as modern witches, healers, seekers, is the legacy of those town witches lives in us, even today, because we, or at least I can't say we, because I can't speak for everybody, but I personally blend my magic with practicality. I have herbal teas that I will drink when I have a cold. I have different charms for luck and for protection and stuff. I usually draw a small protection sigil on my front door when I do my warding and stuff. So basically what it boils down to is it is not always this huge, grand, ritualistic thing as being a witch. Sometimes it's as simple as sitting down with someone and brewing them a cup of tea. Simple, simple, simple. Simple, reaching over, holding someone's hand. That is a healing touch. That's just a little quick base history. And I know it's very broad, and there's tons of information out there about it. Now, I personally like first aid type stuff, so the history of it is fascinating to me, but I know y'all don't want to listen to that for an hour, because I could probably go on for an hour or two. But, so first aid kit, basic witchy first aid kits. Some of the things that I personally have in my home that I have made, that I have used as recently as about an hour ago. I have been fighting a migraine for a couple of days, so I have almost drowned myself in peppermint oil. and I have a lot of little things around my home like that. So, a witchy first aid kit, a magical blend of herbal allies, healing tools, and protective charms, so you're ready for whatever life throws at you. So if you ever wanted something small and similar to hedge witch magic, this is the kind of stuff you can do. Like I said, I tend to be fairly practical, like a hedge witch or a green witch or a kitchen witch, that kind of stuff. And that's why I kind of call myself a chaos witch, because I do a little bit of all of it. Okay. Now, I do not have a green thumb. I struggle with keeping plants alive. But if I go ahead and just buy them already dried or made into an essential oil of some kind, I'm fine. I can't screw that up too terribly bad. So, life happens, right? Scrapes, headaches, energy drains, bad vibes. It's all part of everyday life for us. So having a couple little things, magical and medicinal, kind of ready-made and ready to go, kind of helps you. Now, please remember, you do not have to have all of these things with you all the time. These are just some little ideas of things you can have on hand. All right, so let's build a small kit. Now, these are just some of the things that I use personally, and then I recommend you change it however you need to for what fits for you, okay? Because that is the most important thing that I feel like I've tried really hard to drill into everybody's head is your magic is your magic. And it's right no matter what, okay? If it's right for you, that's all that matters. So, some of the herbal things I have. Now, I do have I'm not even sure how many jars of herbs I have. Too many to count. Don't tell my wife. I try not to remind her that I already have herbs whenever we go places that has more herbs that I can buy. So, my big one is lavender. Now, lavender in like a cleaning solution, I personally cannot use. It makes me sneeze. I'm allergic to, I guess, synthetic lavender. Yeah, we'll go with that. But lavender buds I use all the time. Okay, they are very good for calming the mind, sleep support, even minor cuts if you introduce them with an oil and things like that. Um, for my personal peace of mind, I can burn them on top of a tea light candle or on top of a charcoal disc whenever I am trying to meditate, that kind of stuff. It does relax me. Some people put it in little sachets and put it under their pillows for sleep. You know, I don't personally do that. That's too much for me. Too many smells like that would keep me awake. I already have enough problems sleeping, I'm the weird one, so don't take everything I say about it to heart because I'm the weirdo here. So, lavender. Lavender is a very easy and usable herb to have. I have a crap ton of it. And you can get it, well, almost anywhere. Amazon, just make sure, check your reviews, that kind of stuff. Get it from somewhere that's not coming from overseas, because then you don't know how long it's been dried and packaged. So, chamomile. Chamomile is amazing for stress and digestion and gentle healing. It's good for calming for the mind. It's a very good tea blend to have to drink right before you go to sleep to help you relax, ease your brain, and let you find that nice calm area. Peppermint. Peppermint is huge in my house. I have giant bottles of peppermint oil. I do have some little roller ones that I took out of the big bottle, put in a little roller ball bottle that I could take with me. And I do recommend it. Just be warned, sometimes those roller ball bottles can leak. And once you get peppermint in the bottom of your purse, you are never going to get that out. It's there. Now you have a peppermint purse, which is fine for somebody like me who absolutely loves the smell of peppermint. But it is great for headaches, nausea, or a quick boost of energy. Now, me personally, it relaxes me. If I am super stressed, I go, take a hit of my peppermint oil and just breathe it in for a moment, and it calms my brain down. So our next one is rosemary. Rosemary is a very versatile herb. It's used for protection, mental clarity, sore muscles. It can improve your memory, boost your immune system. Some say it even promotes hair growth. We'll see. Rubbing a balm with rosemary on the skin can repel insects. That's what I'm reading from one of my books here. That's probably why y'all keep hearing me turning pages, because I've got all my herbal books out and kind of flipping through them. So, where was I? Oh, rosemary. Yes. Try not, or I say try, do not ingest excessive amounts because it can cause vomiting, coma, pulmonary edema. So be very careful with that. And we use rosemary when we cook and things like that. But just keep in mind, don't just be raw dogging and just chewing on some rosemary for no reason. Okay? So, magical wise, it can help you remember your dreams or your past lives, or it's an excellent protection herb A lot of people plant it near doorways and things like that. So our next one, let me turn on my pages again, is tea tree. And I know everyone has heard of tea tree because tea tree oil is a huge, huge thing. And there's a reason for that because it's very good. It works for a ton of different things. So it's a great antiseptic. It's antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral. It is a huge, huge thing. And I'm sure you've all seen things like shampoos and soaps and feet soaking stuff. And tea tree is literally everywhere. And I have quite a few little bottles of it here in our home. I put it in my herbal healing salve that I make because it's just that versatile. It's great for things like eczema and acne, dandruff. It helps with that. It's also magical wise. It's good to help clear blockages. So if you're trying to meditate and you just can't quite get there, use a little tea tree oil and let it diffuse, and that can kind of help with that. You can add it to your bath water, particularly, like I said, a foot soak or a foot bath, and just let it kind of soak in and reset and everything. So those are some of the main the herbs that I use and keep around. I know I have a crap ton of other ones, but those are the main ones. And no, you don't, like I said, you don't have to carry all of these around with you all the time. Some people just put them in little Ziploc bags, those little tiny jewelry ones, and just take a little bit with them wherever they go. Now, you can, me personally, I make healing salves and oils and things like that. So an all-purpose herbal salve is going to be a blend of calendula, beeswax, comfrey. Now be careful with the comfrey. You don't want to use a whole lot of that, especially on open wounds. But the combo of those, I usually throw in some tea tree oil and some coconut oil and things like that. But those are great for cuts and little burns, and like if you've gone out in the yard and a briar got you, and you just rub a little of that on it, it usually heals it right up. It's also really good for dry skin. It's very moisturizing and kind of seals that moisture into your skin. The peppermint oil, a little roll-on bottle with peppermint oil, I could not live my life without that. I actually smell like peppermint right now because of that. Like I said, I've been fighting the migraine for a few days. So that's a really good one to keep on you. Like I said, keep it in like a little baggie or something though, so if the little bottle does leak, it doesn't ruin your purse or your bag or whatever. Lavender essential oil is amazing. A drop or two for stress or burns, or just to have a calming energy invoked. Use a little lavender oil. Now, I personally have lavender oil, but I prefer to burn the little lavender buds. That's a personal preference. You do you, boo. So, if you are going to use essential oils, like applying them on your skin, you are going to want to dilute those. Now, peppermint oil, for me, I don't dilute it. I want full strength of my peppermint oil. But most people are not like that. It can be very irritating to sensitive skin. So you want to use some type of carrier oil, like an almond oil, or, some people just mix it in with coconut oil, or whatever suits you, that's what you use. Okay, that way it's not full strength on sensitive skin. You don't want to do that. So, kind of lost my train of thought again. Herbal stuff in conjunction with magic. You can make charms and talismans and amulets. So a simple protection charm would be like a little small bag with some black tourmaline or tourmaline, depending on where you're from, a bay leaf, and a pinch of salt. Boom, protection magic. Just that quick. A healing stone would be like a small piece of amethyst or rose quartz. Those are both good for emotional and physical healing, and you can just keep those in your pocket. All right. So these things don't just help you, okay? They help you to help others too. You may not even realize it. And I tend to give stones and stuff to people if I feel like they're struggling a little bit, and if I have something on me, I give those away to try to alleviate for someone else. You know, maybe it's done with me and it's time for it to move on, and those moments happen for a reason. So that's the kind of crap that I do. And it's not crap, but you know what I mean. I'm gonna get my shit together here, I promise. So we've talked about all these little things that you can kind of gather, the different herbs, some of the little blends and stuff. Some will just throw this in a bag and call it good. Some are going to want to invoke it a little bit more with some intentions, okay? Because we know that everything is a little bit more powerful if we put our intentions behind it, put that healing energy into it. So if you have your little kit, all your little herbs and oils and stuff, gather it all together, put it in like a little small makeup bag or something, whatever. And then say a simple blessing over it if you like. Something simple like holding it in your hands, visualize it glowing with that healing energy, that protective energy, and say, by herb and stone, by heart and hand, bring healing near at my command. Super simple. Simple, from the heart, pure intentions. Okay? Easy peasy. You got this. So, now your witchy first aid kit isn't just a break in case of emergency thing. Alright? I use my stuff all the time. If you're feeling overwhelmed, breathe in your little thing of lavender. Let it help calm you down. If you're in some weird energy at work, bring out that protection charm that you threw in there with the bay leaf and the salt, and kind of hold it and ground yourself. That magic is with you all the time. Use it. It is a part of you, right? Some of the books that I personally use, because there are a crap ton of them and it gets a little bit overwhelming. So one of the most basic ones, and this is mainly for just the medicinal part of it, it's the Encyclopedia of Herbal Medicine. You can get on Amazon. It's by Andrew Chevalier. Sure, we'll go with that. It's Chevallier. I know I am screwing up that pronunciation, but it has... I personally have not found an herb that is not in here, and I have bookmarked a crap ton of them, so there's little sticky tabs sticking out all over my copy. So it's kind of hard to put in my bookshelf because it hangs on everything. But magical wise, let me get my other book here. I have these two are my favorite books. One is called Plant Witchery by Juliet Diaz. Says discover the sacred language, wisdom, and magic of 200 different plants. It has a ton of information in here, and a couple of little recipes or little spells or whatever. Now, it does have like its essential properties, the medicinal properties, magical properties, plant wisdom, like how to take care of them, that kind of stuff. So this one this is my absolute favorite one, and it has a crap ton in here, and I love it. And it also has a ridiculous amount of tabs sticking out of it now that I really look at it. Uh, my other herbal book I have is the Witch's Encyclopedia of Magical Plants. History, Folklore, Correspondences, and Spells. And this is by Sandra Kynes. It's one of I just recently got this book, so I have not gone through it as much as I've gone through my other ones. But it is a huge book. It has like the name, it has the genus, species, all that kind of stuff, and kind of tells you what it looks like, has the history and lore about it, any magical connections, like any astrological influences, any deities that are connected to it, has a few little spells and rituals and things like that. So it is really good. But I just have not had the time to dive into it like I would like to. So, I'm sure y'all are sick of listening to me ramble and stutter and get all twisted up on my words and where the hell I am in my notes and hearing me rattle books and papers around. Well, I've given you a little bit to think about on the history of witches, our healers and stuff that we all come from. We've gone over a little bit of the witch's first aid kit, so it's part of your healing stuff, part of your spell stuff, and a part reminder that we carry an ancient knowledge when we use that. Hopefully you put a little kit together. If not, cool. You do you. You know, whatever's right for you. And I will sit here and douse myself in peppermint oil and hope that my migraine finally goes away after taking Tylenol and ibuprofen and a ridiculous amount of oil. So I hope y'all have had a good night. Next time we're probably going to go over meditation. What do y'all think? Y'all think that my voice is calming enough to do some guided meditation? We'll see. We're going to try it and see what happens. So, till next time, stay safe, stay magical, keep weaving that healing energy into yourself and into the world. Bye.